We're taking a look at the U.S. major averages up across the board. The Dow up 1.5%, and the S&P 500 up 1.6%, and the Nasdaq Composite saying, hold my beer. It's up 2.1% right now. So stocks rallying after December's consumer price index was in line with estimates. Joining me now in studio, we've got Vance Howard Capital Management, CEO and CIO. Big banks officially kicking off earnings season today. You say that this could be the most consequential earnings season over a year. What should investors be doing?
Well, that's an interesting question because, Brad, we were very bullish going into the banks at the beginning of 2025, and we still are bullish in that area. But if you look at what happened in California, what's happening with the banks, there's going to be some defaults. And that's going to cause some issues, especially with earnings as we go forward. I don't think people have calculated that in yet because it just happened over the past, 3 or 4 or 5 days. So our theory or our synopsis was going into the year may have changed a little bit. So we're going to be a little bit patient as we look at the banks, because if we do start to have the defaults that we think we're going to have, it'll impact earnings in the third and fourth quarter, maybe not the second. But, you look at a $20 million house, they lost 12,000 homes. I mean, that doesn't include strip centers and, multifamily, et cetera, and it just keeps going and going from there. But if you got a $20 million house and you could only insure it for $3 million, you're $17 million down, or maybe you put $2 or $3 million down, so you're $12 million, that you've got to pay back to the bank. Yeah. Some are going to walk away from that. And that's going to impact, especially mortgage companies. Look at like Wells Fargo and Bank of America, which are holding some of those notes. Yeah. So that's something to think about going forward. This was it was devastating.
Just to follow up on that, because I think you're making a great point here in that it wouldn't show up in the numbers that we've seen reported right now, but to what extent do you expect to hear it talked about by CEOs, by some of the executives, even as they are trying to position the narrative for their outlook for the year ahead with the analysts, with the investors, but also knowing that this is a major event that really has not been calculated for in entirety yet?
Well, I think we're just starting to talk about it now.
Yeah.
With me, and because like I said, we were bullish on the banks up until 3 or 4 or 5 days ago. But another thing, Brad, let's take a consideration to it. The regional banks that really could be devastated by what happened in California. This is a 1 in a 100-year event. This was the 100-year storm. You look at what happened in the Carolinas, but the home values and the property values weren't nearly as elevated as what they are in Los Angeles. Right. These are through the roof. Yeah. Another thing that they're not taking into consideration too, there was some incredible art and artifacts that were inside of a lot of these homes that are gone. Read the other day that a gentleman had a tremendous amount of Warhols, and he pulled out 3, and I think he had 20. That means that 17 are just ashes now. That how do you put a value on that? It's really tough. So there's a lot of insurance risk out there too. And you look at inflation. Insurance is a big component of inflation. Well, our rates just went up.
Yeah, for sure. So you also have some stock picks for us as well that you're watching right now. What is the top of your list in terms of what you're prioritizing and how you're evaluating?
My top pick for 2025 is Salesforce CRM. And we really like that pick due to the fact that it's got recurring revenue. Excuse me. Recurring revenue, you don't have to go and resell the product again. It's a monthly subscription. Yeah. We use Salesforce and we're very, very pleased with it. And it's not inexpensive. It's actually expensive to use Salesforce, but it's an incredibly effective tool. But everybody wants to look at AI, artificial intelligence, and how's it going to affect my life. This is going to be one of the few firms that you can actually probably see it and use it at the very beginning phases because of the robust structure that Salesforce has internally and what they're trying to accomplish.
Right.
So very bullish on Salesforce in 2025.
It's interesting. I was at the National Retail Federation big show, and Salesforce was one of the most prominently displayed logos in the exhibition hall as you were walking in, hearing people talking about agents and agent force, so forth. Just lastly, while we have you here, though, and we have a bit of time, your top tip for portfolio evaluation this year?
Well, like I said, we Salesforce. I also like O'Reilly Auto Parts. And one reason I like O'Reilly, number one, they're well managed. They're auto parts. So good times, bad times, people are going to buy auto parts. But they've had a long track record that's continually marched forward in their value of the stock, and they've got a good balance sheet, and they've got a good product that people are going to continue to use no matter what the economy does.
Vance, thanks so much for taking the time joining us here in studio. Appreciate it.
It's good to see you.
Certainly.